Hi, I'm Rebecca Kleefisch from the 1848 Project. Carlo Davila protected the streets of Milwaukee as a cop for 25 years. Today, he's an 1848 Project Advisory Board member. And recently, we sat down to talk about the state of policing in Wisconsin. And here's what he had to say.
After 25 years of investing in the community, one of the considerations was, am I ready to make this leap when I have had countless hours of training and experience that I think could add value to those communities that I worked in every single day? And as I contemplated on whether or not to continue, I unfortunately had to deal with a lot of the current trends and situations that are going on right now with a lot of the anti-law enforcement rhetoric that is coming across our country. And it started to feel like more of a thankless job. And not that anybody in law enforcement is looking for those thank yous. It's just that there's more feelings and touch when people have that appreciation and you have that knowingly inside your heart and continue to make the difference that's out there when you're making individual difference. But again, I think it started going the opposite direction where unfortunately it just feels like we're the bad guys these days.
Is that what your colleagues are feeling? I mean, obviously you left a lot of friends behind in the department. Are your friends and former colleagues feeling the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a discussion that comes up often. A lot of us are from the communities that we serve, and at the same time, there are people that come from different communities in the state of Wisconsin or even across the country that have served here in the city of Milwaukee and hoping to do some good. Yet, as we progress through our career, we realize that people aren't necessarily happy to see us. We are sometimes getting shunned. So when you try to make contact with people just to ask them how their day is, sometimes those conversations aren't really greeted well or turned away. It makes it difficult to come in, and then difficult for us as mothers, fathers, sisters and brothers, uncles and aunts to come home and have to express to the family about why people are saying certain things about us as individuals, just because of the badge that we carry or that uniform that is seen.
Has it gotten more dangerous?
We have seen the numbers of non-fatal shootings in the city of Milwaukee and the homicide rate stay the same over, again, 10 years. And in fact, this year alone, we are seeing that increase in both non-fatal shootings and homicides. And having worked at the non-fatal shootings personally and being part of the violent crimes division, I've seen that up close and personal. Add on top of that, the heroin overdoses that are going on. And then add on top of that, the anti-law enforcement rhetoric where, again, people are fighting with police more and having some of those issues and complying. That adds to escalation, essentially, and therefore not a good situation.
It has to be scary. Getting up every day, kissing your wife goodbye, and not knowing whether you are going to come home when you've seen almost a double down effect this year alone in some of the scariest statistics.
Yes, and I'll say this coming from a military background. So I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I was.
Thank you for your service.
And having that service behind you and a lot of other service members that have come back in the last couple of years and joined the ranks of law enforcement, we are not necessarily shunning the danger. We know what the expectations are. And, my parents never loved to hear this part of me, but I said I would be willing to sacrifice myself for the greater good.
When you look at the future of policing, are you worried that this environment that you described, that people respecting cops less and the COVID lockdown contributing to anxiety and depression, which may contribute to bad behaviors in, addiction and letting out steam in other less appropriate ways. Is this going to be a deterrent in attracting new, good recruits to the police force?
Well, I would like to say that that's obvious. I'm not sure if people are really paying attention across this country. but every law enforcement agency is having trouble filling their ranks. This anti-law enforcement rhetoric is not helping the situation. I mean, there used to be plenty of applicants in every jurisdiction, and now, even in Wisconsin, we see other states coming here to recruit or take officers in a lateral transfer to come back and fill out their policing locations and departments. And essentially, I get what they're trying to do, but we are also trying to keep our good candidates here. And frankly, when we talk about behavior, it is one of those things that I look at and say, it's not just about respect. We all want respect, but I think the thought process is that we have to earn it. And that's not necessarily being done. And when we look at a lot of these law enforcement shootings all across the country, they are very tragic. But the one thing that does stand out to me is that compliance is an issue. And when we look at compliance, I'd like to think of it this, and being a father myself, if law enforcement or if an officer shows up at a scene to a young adult or an older adult for that matter, and we are the first people to come in here and say, stop, don't move, listen, pay attention, that could come across, again, as an agitation to that person who never have heard those disciplinary measures or words. And so really when I think about it is we as parents have to be cognitive in raising our kids, being there, helping the community understand that if somebody came to my parents' house and said, your son was misbehaving, my parents would have taken that wholeheartedly. They wouldn't have defended me necessarily. They would look at and find out what's going on. And essentially what you have is you need to educate our parents and our kids in order to have some sort of discipline, which leads to respect, which leads to compliance when they're dealing with law enforcement.
One of the things that I imagine is also a contributor to fewer people being excited about jumping into recruit classes is political leadership countrywide. Even in Milwaukee, the city council said that they were going to do an exercise in cutting the budget by 10%. The mayor came out and has a plan to cut 120 officers when you just told me that violent crime is up significantly year over year. What does that do to morale?
Morale, I will tell you that where I was from, in my particular unit, morale is a little bit lower. Not that the job performances are lower, but it does get a little foggy when you're looking at leadership that you're working for, and they're essentially telling you that you're never good or you're not doing those good things. And again, I need to make sure that I'm not blanketing that entire statement, but at the end of the day, leadership is so important. Again, it's stressed in the Marine Corps. I hear it today. A lot of our leaderships, our positive leaders are talking about extreme ownership and making sure that they understand that if something is not going well, they need to look at themselves first and have accountability before you can start yelling at everybody else. And so my thing is, yeah, when you have leadership that is not doing that, they're not talking to the ground level, they're worried about their political agendas, they're worried about a direction they want to go for whatever those reasons are. Again, by all means, everybody in politics has an agenda, but you must understand that if we're going to make progress, you have to listen to the people that are working for you and the communities that they are actually providing a service for.